Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagu. We've got quite a packed show for you today. Around the globe, the whole world is reacting to Trump's executive orders. We'll be looking at that on the show today. But firstly, we'll start here from Nigeria, looking at the Telcos hike tariff. And of course, we'll give you a rundown of our talking points. We'll look at 50% increase plight of subscribers and also calls for reversal by CSOs, Nats and Alton. Our guest tonight is no stranger to the show. Dr. Ali Ilyas is an economist and a supply chain expert, customer service, CX expert, and author. Also, later on the show today, Trump presidency and Africa. Our talking points will focus on implications of Trump's executive orders and Nigeria-U.S. relations. Joseph Umoro Philip, governance expert and development elections and peace-building expert, will be joining us virtually to discuss this. So let's get straight to business. Telephone subscribers in Nigeria will pay more for data and airtime as the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, on Monday approved a 50% tariff increase for telecoms operators in the country. Now, in a statement, the spokesperson for the regulator, Ruben Morka, said the price adjustment, though lower than the over 100% requested by some network operators, was arrived at taking into account ongoing industry reforms that will positively influence sustainability. The regulator said the increase was pursuant to its power under Section 108 of the Nigerian Communications Act 2003 to regulate and approve tariff rates and charges by telecommunications operators. Now, in his words, he says these adjustments will remain within the tariff bands as stipulated in the 2013 NCC cost study, and requests will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, as is the Commission's standard practice for tariff reviews. It will be implemented in strict adherence to the recently issued NCC guidance on Tariff Simplification 2024. Now, let's just look at some of the justification for the tariff. First, they say that the tariff rates have remained static since 2013 despite the increasing cost of operation faced by telecom operators. The approved adjustment is aimed at addressing the significant gap between operational costs and current tariffs while ensuring that the delivery of services to consumers is not compromised. And adjustments, they say, will support the ability of operators to continue investing in infrastructure and innovation, ultimately benefiting consumers through improved services and connectivity, including better network quality, enhanced customer service, and greater coverage. The NCC said it recognized the financial pressures faced by Nigerian households and businesses and remained emphatic to the impact of these adjustments. So to this end, the Commission has mandated that operators implement these adjustments transparently and in a manner that is fair to consumers. Operators are also required to educate and inform the public about the new rates while demonstrating measurable improvements in service delivery. So who are these telecom operators? Of course, you make use of them, I make use of them. But let's just look at the percentage share of subscriber base for some of these telcos. MTN has over 87 million subscribers, which makes up 38.79% of the subscriber base, which is over 200 million, Globalcom with 61 million, Ethel with 61 million, and Nine Mobile with 13.9 million users. That's a lot of Nigerians who are subscribers of these telcos. So, Dr. Ilya, good to have you on the show. Ali, I beg your pardon, before you crucify me.
Right.
Thanks for being with us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, in a Tinubu presidency, this is not shocking, but recall the other time when the NCC said they were looking towards 30% to 60%. Were they trying to play it safe now that they're saying it's 50%? Of course, a lot of Nigerians are so shocked about this. I mean, during the morning show today, we had lots of people calling. That's to tell you how impactful this tariff hike will be on Nigerians. What are your thoughts?
I think the reaction is expected because, if you look at telcos, they are the engine that actually make the Nigerian economy to flourish. Because if you are banking, you need to also pass through USSD or even internet. You can also be at the comfort of the house to do a lot of what you should have go to four-wall office or banks to actually do. In fact, these are production could have way of it's also enhanced by these operators. However, it's not a shocking expectation, because if you look at Tinubu government or what have you, you know that it is expected. Perhaps I also want to share the concerns of the telcos. They also operate where the fuel, the PMS have jumped from 189 or 190 to over 1,000 naira, and they also have to service all their facilities. Their staff also deserve a pay rise and whatever. But if you look at it very, very well, I think. Is 50% justified? That's a question now. Well, if you ask me if you ask me for them, yes, but for consumer, no.
They were initially asking for 100%,
yes,
according to the MTN.
As I said, for them, yes. For consumer, no, because it's taking away our purchasing
power.
Even
the 100% to you is justified for them.
Well, for me, I think the thing is that it's like a bargaining. They actually push that up so that they can get it where they actually got now. But I think for them to increase the tariff, it is quite justified, because if you look at the economic situation, they also play in the same Nigeria economy where things
What
are
about
expensive.
the affording power of Nigerians? Because that seems to not be in the equation. Like, we have so many companies outside the country. Let me use an example of, say, Netflix, which is a service provider. Now, the rates for subscription monthly across the countries differ because of the value of the currency of that particular country. So looking at that, would you say it's still justified?
Well, if you say affordability, how do you justify affordability? So let me now ask you, what if they do not invest in their infrastructure? What will happen? This is where you have to look at it very well. So they also are doing this so enable them to actually work more on their infrastructure, because the more they fail to invest more in the sector, the more we have poor service. So should we pay for better service and get better service? So I think what should we be looking at is that, do they actually give us a good service that justify what they actually are collecting? And that's the condition we expect federal government to give to them. We have a lot of drop calls, a lot of difficulties in making some calls. How are we going to better? But I can tell you, if we don't have more investment in telcos, we may begin to have a lot of problem in that area.
But do you think the NCC has the back of Nigerians? Because they left the sole responsibility of educating consumers or subscribers to the telcos. Shouldn't they be part of that responsibility?
When you say they left, I used to be at NCC Consumer Forum, where we used to clamor for a lot of things. I think they should both be involved. Why the NCC is doing it, all those operators, telcos operators should also involved in it. I'm not sure if you know that there's another internet that is all over in Nigeria now, where you have uninterrupted. They've just increased their own tariff by using more than 50%. So, and it's internet service provider. So, if you look at it very well, it is not much more of the problem of the telcos. It's the problem of Nigerian government policy direction, because they are actually spending more for their infrastructure. Remember, there's problem of double taxation that we hope this new tax reform is going to solve. There's a problem of increments in salary pay and whatnot, and operating costs. So these are what they actually put together and say they have to increase their tariff. So what I think Nigerians should hold them and hold SC responsible for is that, are we going to get the commensurate service compared to whatever and other sundry issues that we have, that other people can. And that's why we also need to advocate. The CSO and others need to also do more in terms of advocating for a better. But I can tell you, if there's any sector that actually helped the Nigeria economy, I can tell you it's telcos. Because I recall, before now, all of us will go to bank to queue, you have to go to the four-wall, but now you can do everything, and you can also transact business at the door, at your door mount, without stepping anywhere. So I think it's a good one that they actually are increasing their tariff, but we must also tell them that they should come. Because for me, as an economist, you have to justify how you can also sustain your business. For them to sustain that area too, without trying to canvas for them, they also need to get more money.
Okay, now let's move down to reality in terms of how this impact trickles down to the last, average man on the street. You look at POS operators, charges are going to go up. You talk about bank charges also. How is also going to affect service delivery, and in all these multiple sectors that rely not just on voice communications but also data communications. How do you think this government is ready for the outcry that is going to come as a result of this?
So I'll be happy to discuss about how government can make life better for Nigeria. Now, you recall that as it is moving to 50%, it will also reflect in other people's business. So if I'm doing more to buy more data, I will as well do more to increase my service pay. So the major thing is that's why we talk about enabling environment for businesses. I don't know what stopped government from providing an alternative for Nigerians. I recall there was a minister in FCT who decided that there's a particular area that he put free Wi-Fi that you can go there and connect. So a good sensitive government, we look at what my people use, especially micro and small business, that I need to create an enabling environment for them. So do we have a lot of competition? Even for me, I don't think we have enough telcos. And I don't know why it's
just four
major players. It's not a good one, because I remember.
Would you say because of the challenges that they are complaining?
I think it's because of the licensing. I think it's a licensing issue.
A result of people willing to come into the business.
I think it's because of the constitutionality of the license. Because I don't know why we shouldn't have a country of about 200 million. We only have 4 people.
I mean, you look at
and one of them is
percentage share we just put on.
Right.
There. I mean, there's 38%. Probably. Would you say that's monopoly?
It's cartel. It's not monopoly, it's now cartel, where 4 people will sit down and determine what happens. So imagine if there are 20. If Lagos can have its own area network, Abuja have a particular network that if I choose to make up within Abuja, I will be using that network. So what I think we should canvas for is for a competition, because competition will bring down the price of the cost. Or you can choose, but there's a time we have a visa phone in Abuja that we can use, but now I think it has been bought over by Airtel and a lot of them. So NCC should do more to have more player in that sector.
I mean, so
especially for voice call.
This is also an issue that we were looking at, especially when it comes to power generation and also oil production. Like more people coming in, like that would help. But we've not really seen that help in any way for oil production. So
right.
How are you sure that will also work for telecommunications?
When you say you've not seen that in oil production, I think maybe we should give it a gestation period. Because if you look at, as at now, I read today, there is another license for 50 barrel capacity, and there's another one for 10. So it's actually improved. Then we don't have issue of supply side. Have you noticed now? Because of Dangote that comes in, we have abundant supply now. The only problem is that you can't compare telcos to oil and gas. You know why? Oil is a global market, whereby once there is a fluctuation in global market, it will affect domestic consumption. But for telcos, it is a local. It is local. So, and we expect
MTN is local?
No, yes, the service delivery is local. The determinant for the cost is local. It's because now the increment is born out of PMS price change. You're right? Though the global will come and affect local, but if you have much more people, much more player, it will help. You can, before, recall that telcos is not as cheap as this before. I think if there's any way we have seen competition working, it is in telcos. But we need to expand it further to make sure that we have more than, we should have like 20. That in particular environment, this could be covering Southwest only. This could be covering Northwest only. And this could be covering a state or some local government. That's how we should, just like the radio, TV. You will see radio that is for 2 local government. You will see for the whole state. No, the more you try to pay for, the more you have the opportunity, or the more you seek for permission, the more you get it. So I think we should go in that route in telcos to really have to really make sure that competition is there. But I can tell you and agree with you, this tariff increment is going to affect a lot of businesses.
Now, away from that, let's look at the telcos themselves. Is this a situation whereby a particular company can say they have the right to have their own price, or the price rate is going to be equal, flat? Is it going to be flat across the telco companies?
I think it depends.
So where will the competition come in?
It depends on the NCC, how they actually design how it should be. I think, some of them are on optic fiber, some of them are, with, different way of generating their sources. So I think telcos should be the one to look at that competition. I think there was a time where everybody was porting. We were thinking porting will bring impact on service delivery, but it's like more of the same. So I think ICC should decipher more. And how do they decipher more is to give us more competition. And for internet service provider, have you noticed, internet service provider, there is more competition in that area because you have about 10. Apart from this normal voice call telcos, they also provide internet services. We still have some others that doesn't provide direct voice call but provide data service, which is a good. So it brings competition in that. So if you look at it, if you don't subscribe to this data, you can subscribe to this internet service. Just subscribe from this, you can subscribe for this. So which is a good one. So we want much more competition in that area.
Now, with this development, are we going to see a situation whereby in a short period of time there will be another review for increase? Because that seems to be the kind of administration that we're in now, so reactionary. So what if tomorrow, let me say, God forbid, petrol becomes 1,500 or becomes 2,000 naira? Are we going to hear them crying foul and say they want an increase?
You recall that the last review was 2013. They say. So now that's about 11 years to now. So for me, I don't even the price of petrol for now, there is a particular range between 1 to 1,000, 1 to 900. So it may still be in that. So it may not be in that direction. Perhaps NC should also have, they are quoting a law, if you recall what you were showing. They're quoting a law who says that there's a particular, they have rights, and there's a particular, I'm sure there's a particular period in which they can actually, maybe in the next 3, 4, 5 years, they can do the review. But by and large, I think government should be conscious of considering the citizen when they are increasing anything.
Okay, now let's look at some backlash and reactions. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, Tariff, has given President Bola Tinubu 48 hours to reverse the recent hike, saying that there's a failure to do so rather means the administration will be charged to court. Also, the Association of Telcos Subscribers says it will sue the Nigerian Communications Commission over the same hike, and the adjustments comes after the Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria and the Association of Telecommunications Companies of Nigeria raised several concerns and asked the NCC to review call tariffs upwards. Now, also, the Chief Executive Officer for MTN Nigeria said the telcos wanted a 100% increase in tariffs, but in approving the operator's requests, the NCC capped the tariff at 50% lower than the telcos' demand. And reacting with journalists on Monday, the president of NATCOMS, Diolu Ogunbanjo, said the NCC did not carry subscribers along in the arrangement. Now, many folks will be shocked that there is even an association for subscribers. So in terms of their plight, I'm looking at a situation whereby there ought to be proper consultations with stakeholders on how this would work. But in the midst of all these court cases that is likely going to come out of this, how do you think it will play out?
Right. In as much as I think Sarah, I'm always happy when I see them coming out to challenge.
Is it more of talk
government?
Now? Because
no, they actually go to court, which if other CSO is actually doing that, that would have solved a lot of problems. You may not win all the time, but you may have, perhaps beyond winning itself, you are calling the conscience of governments to the action they are actually taking. Then Adeolu Ogunbanjo, I think we are in the same platform, and I saw when he posted those things. Now, subscriber, the S used to have a stakeholder, and I was thinking they would have called us to actually, I used to attend their meeting to call us to abreast us of what, but they never had it because they think they can take Nigerians for granted. And it's a good one that Mr. Delu Ogumbajo is now challenging, and other subscribers, among others, are challenging them in court. I think it's a good one because I was actually expecting like 25-30% increment, but then I saw 50%. Well, I think, NCC also have their way of justifying those things. So we look forward to see what actually play out in the long run. But for them to reverse it, and it will be out of court issues because, it's as an operator, you also have right to review, and they have justification for it. They will say, okay, don't you see the changes that is happening in the country in terms of especially operating costs? Because I can tell you if there's anything that is affecting any company, any organization, is now operational costs. And everybody wants to actually be in business. And to be in business, you have to also justify that you're actually charging as possible. But then, because of the importance of Telcos to Nigerians, we cannot say less about the importance of it, even to ordinary citizen, let alone citizens that have businesses to do. So maybe court will be the final arbiter.
But it will probably be affected and then probably see how they can work it
back. I was thinking I will see an injunction that will say they should not, but there was no injunction. So I expect maybe the Alton or Telcos subscriber to go for an injunction, or Serap should go for an injunction. But I don't know, maybe there cannot be injunction on such matters. But if it's a political issue now, there's an injunction.
Now, the funny thing is, the president will always say, let the poor breathe. That was something that, he started back in.
That was then.
So what is next? I mean, we're just waking up from that of the power in industry, and now we're looking at telecommunications. What is next? What is next?
I think this government is bent on, will I say bent down, is looking at how to generate revenue at all means. And if you're looking at generating revenue, you should look at the consequence. So we are suffering the consequence of his policy, decision, and direction. So for me, a serious government, so to say, will have look at the problem and create a solution towards what is going to happen. So are they prepared enough for this? No, because when you want to remove first subsidy and you want to float the naira, you are supposed to ramp up also production. So our problem now is that you are even diminishing, you are reducing our power to actually produce more because you actually want to raise more revenue, which is which can never bring development. If you think you can tax people through, you can make money and develop a country, no. Because if you are developing those, like for me, for Tinubu government, what I see is that at the end of 4 years, we will see that Tinubu has built road, he has created this, he has created that, but you will discover that as an individual or a company, you are going down, the more your purchasing power is reducing. Look at what just happened now. The implication is that it's going to reduce our purchasing power. The more. That's the problem. And that's the direction I see this government going.
Now, for an economy that wants to thrive on production, what's Tinubu's pathway to achieve that? Because it's more about, okay, let's drive the revenue initiative, traveling abroad and bringing all the investments home.
Which one has
why is he not bent on manufacturing and production?
Thank you so much. I think you are going the direction I want to answer. Have you noticed that in Abuja, we see real estate everywhere? We have not seen one factory. But we have seen, everybody's... So until government direction encourage people to go into textile, like you create an enabling environment, we have moribund in textile. Anybody who wants to invest in textile, we have 200 billion for you to borrow from. Anybody who wants to go to manufacturing of maybe shoes and what have you. These are the direction I think government should continue with. Then we should see it practical, not going to consumer credit or what have you. We should see that government is actually encouraging production. But as it is now, government is just trying to tax you more. How many persons, I can tell you now, in Nigeria or even foreign direct investment want to come and invest in this climate? There's a lot of things that are negative. If you look at our MPR, it's discouraging. You have to pay a lot of money when you borrow. If you look at they even enabling them in terms of security is not encouraging. If you look at the taxes, it's not actually encouraging. If you look at the cost of energy, it's not encouraging. So what is that thing that will actually makes a company say, okay, I want to invest? And tell me in the last 2 years, how many investments has it actually attracted? Most of them will only promise you, but they will look at the climate, the environment. Is it a good place to actually invest? If it's not, they would certainly not come. And that's the problem we're likely to see. Because as an individual, if I have 100 million, or 200 million, I want to invest. Now, I'll look at it. If I invest, am I likely to get my money? Because we cannot even, the policy direction is not even, so you know what I will do? I also take my money to bank and be collecting interest on it, because that is the shortcut to it.
All right. Now, before I let you go, Doctor, I wanted us to look at Trump's economic policy and some of the executive orders that he gave on the first day of him taking into power, most especially the order on external revenue drive, where he says he's going to tax every country and then put all that resources in a particular account to serve as a reserve for his country. And in a surprising turn of events, we saw Taiwo Oyedele, react to that, saying that is going to change the whole landscape of tax in the world. So how does that affect the reforms that he's doing and the ability for it to deliver the results that he wants to see?
No, I think
when he says disruption, what does he mean?
Right. When you say, we know Trump for disruption. If you understand him very, very well. So, that he's bringing something new. I think it's no rule for him to say that there's going to be external, tax revenue, what have you. No, I think he's exposing the whole world to another vista of knowledge in time. That's what Ayodele is actually acknowledging. But for me, I think Trump is quite intentional, because he never, all what he said in his campaign, you could see 40 executive order within a day that he resumed office. That simply means he meant what he's actually saying. So I think Trump said American first, and you wouldn't blame him. We should be saying Nigerian first as well. But because he saw that people are taking advantage of their own economy, and he thinks there is a need for them. You recall during his first tenure, I remember the tax, the inflation rate was very minimal, and he also said that you must come and, if you are having business in America, we expect Americans to actually benefit first, which is quite normal. So as a Nigerians, if you want to come and invest in Nigeria, I should be looking at what is the benefit therein for Nigeria. And that's what Trump is actually looking at. So for Nigeria, let's look at Nigeria and America
now. So you're advising that the president and his economic team begin to look towards, enacting some of Trump's policy ideologies?
No, it should be too early for them to actually try to do that, because we cannot even do it. At what benefit are we going to do it? Are we self-sufficient? How is our trade policy? How is our balance of trade? How is our balance of payment? These are the things you have to look. Trump has ascertained that, yes, it is to his own benefit. But we should be looking at what Trump government will be for us, is it negative or positive? One, we have to review our trade policy, because oil and gas is going to suffer to some extent. As of today, I think it's...
He said drill, baby, drill. So
right, as of today, I think the value is reducing as well, and I think our benchmark should be $70 or so. So we have to look at it, how it's going to be. But we have some little shock absorber, thanks to Dangote, who have actually come. We are now exporting, finished goods, unlike before that we are rentier economy, where we have to export our crude and also import a finished product. I think that's a good advantage. For then another thing is that we are looking towards BRICS. I don't know Trump reaction to that, but BRICS being partner, it's also...
Yeah, but partner is different from member.
It does not matter. That you partner simply means you are open doors for business to do business with them.
So is USA looking at us in a bad light?
Right, definitely. They'll be looking at you that now you're now having it's like a competition now. So we are now looking at who, and you recall last year we trade more with China more than America. That means we are tilting towards that area. And President Bola Tinubu is also telling China to increase their yuan, the swap agreement or whatever that we have with China, that they should increase the base. So these are the things that we need to actually look at. So it's going to be a challenging one for America, because in as much as America is trying to actually be doing American first, they should also be ready for global competition.
Okay, now in 2 minutes before we go, what is your advice to President Bola Tinubu in terms of dealing with U.S. Economically speaking?
Right, I think the first thing is that we should look at how we can actually do more in our oil, because it's going to affect, it's our mainstay and it's a major determinant for our budget. We should try to diversify as it were, because we saw Buhari diversify into agriculture then, and we saw the rise that it was self-sufficient at the point. We should do more to diversify, then we should be policy sensitive. I'm happy that we have new minister for trade and investment who is very vast. So we should look at our policy, because our trade policy is a major problem that we're having in Nigeria. Not only we always keep on looking at monetary and fiscal policy, so our trade policy should speak and respond to Trump decisions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ali Ilyas, for being with us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, there you have it. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve more into some of the executive orders from President Trump. And we've got Umar Joseph joining us to make sense of all that. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? Order. The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
Hello and glad to have you back on Politics Now. Time for us to move forward to talk about a Trump presidency and Africa. Here is a run-on of our talking points. First, we'll look at the implications of Trump's executive orders and Nigeria-US relations. Joining us virtually from Abuja to talk about this is our guest, Joseph Omaro Philip, governance expert, development elections, peace building expert. All right, so let's break it down before we get to you. All right, from international trade to global health, Trump's flurry of decisions on the first day in office are expected to impact lives and livelihoods across the world, including Africa. During months of a heated election campaign for his return to the White House, Donald Trump promised to effect major policy changes as part of his Make America Great Again agenda. Immediately after his swearing in as the 47th President of the United States on Monday, Trump signed a flurry of executive orders and actions, from issues of immigration and international trade to global health. Trump complained about international agreements and initiatives that do not reflect America's values or contributions to the pursuit of economic and environmental objectives, saying they steer American taxpayer dollars to countries that do not require or merit financial assistance in the interests of the American people. So let's have a look of some of the others that will definitely impact Africa. Of course, first on our list, the suspension of foreign assistance program. Trump's executive order freezes disbursement of all U.S. foreign development assistance for 90 days, pending a review of programmatic efficiency and ensuring that disbursements are aligned with the foreign policy of the President of the United States. Second, External Revenue Service. Under his America First trade policy, Trump announced plans to establish an External Revenue Service with a broader plan of using it to collect tariffs, duties, and other foreign trade-related revenue. This move to impose tariffs and taxes on other countries, which could disrupt international trade and further complicate the already complex global tax system. Thirdly, he withdrew from the Paris Agreement, and of course, he's been a fierce critic of climate change for years, and in the run-up to the November election as well. In his inauguration, climate activists were concerned that he would reverse the global gains made in the fight against climate change. And then fourthly, withdrawal from WHO. Trump's announcement came that he would withdraw from the US from the World Health Organization, signifying his disapproval of the WHO and its leadership. During Trump's first term in 2020, he attempted to get the US to part ways with the Global Health Organization, citing its alleged mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic and of a global health crisis. And away from that, the national energy emergency. And for our country, Nigeria, and the likes of Angola, cheaper American production could challenge market share, though it could also lower production costs for African economics reliant on fuel imports. So, on Trump's external revenue drive, the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, revealed that the External Revenue Service announced by the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, could further complicate the global tax system. He added that by revamping Nigeria's tax system, that we can better navigate potential challenges and seize any opportunities this development may present. Now, do recall the Nigerian Governors Forum last Thursday endorsed the bill pushing for a revised value-added tax sharing formula aimed at promoting equitable resource distribution among states. So the proposed sharing formula allocates 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population. So that's quite a lot to unpack, talking about Trump's second term, which has kicked in full effect. Let's get to our guest standing by. Joseph, thank you so much for being with us just in the short time of notice.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's start first with your thoughts on Trump's executive orders and how Africa should be bracing up to feel the impact, of what some people are calling a tough time for Africa. But is it?
Mana, thank you for that. I think for me, for starters, personal opinion is I feel we are giving too much relevance to the United States that it deserves. That's yes, we understand that it's a world power. Yes, we understand that it has a critical role to play in terms of economy. But I don't know. But for the fact that I've always been saying it in the first place in the whole conversations around the debate, and when you look at it, even in the process of the campaign, and there were no conversations or mentions around Africa, and that's already to tell you even how much that already for me were, will I say, signs already or indicators as to the direction the Trump presidency would be. And then beyond that also, this is somebody that we have already had an experience of his first term in office. So we had already an understanding of his disposition as far as immigration is concerned, as far as Africa is concerned, and to a large extent, even in terms of foreign policy, you know the continents and the countries that he has particular interest in. And so for me, really, for one, if really we are discussing Africa's response to Trump's administration now, then I think we're a little too late. That is the truth. That is we being reactionary rather than proactive, because every right-thinking and serious government should have already by now, I would say, have a response strategy, or will I say a plan or framework in place on how to engage America going forward. That is my thought and that is my thinking, Mana.
Now, having said what you've said, what's your advice to African leaders, especially regarding the part of oil production? You had Donald Trump. He's going to drill, and the global tax disruption that's going to come from that external revenue drive that he's fixated on in terms of bringing in monies into the American reserve.
First things first is you have Trump is fundamentally a businessman. So it's expected that as far as his economic policy or engagements is concerned with the rest of the world, it's going to be fundamentally transactional for me. And I think that is something Africa should look forward to. And why I say look forward to it, enough of the whole mantra or the mindset of we seeing ourselves as recipients. I think I see it first of all as an opportunity to renegotiate. And the beauty of also it is for us as Nigeria, we're already joining BRICS. So that alone in itself, we know is an opportunity. And then when you look at it also with the strategic role Nigeria plays, whether be it at the continental level or most especially in the Sahel, that we know most of the Western powers are trying so much to gain a foothold, then I can say to a large extent, Nigeria has actually a good strategic position at this point right now. So even for some reasons, let me say renegotiate its stance. But then when you look at it, even from the oil production standpoint, already OPEC is already coming out to complain, saying that the new Dangote refinery is already disrupting the oil market. And then you have a Trump now, for instance, who is coming to say, "Oh, baby, drill, baby, drill," meaning that going forward, the whole embargo on oil drilling in the United States have been lifted going forward. So what does that mean? It means that yes, on the supply side, we're going to have more of oil, but we know on the flip side again for us is as an oil-dependent nation, what it also means is that oil price internationally will drop, and so also would our expected revenue. But then it's a good thing that before now we have been trying to diversify. I want to believe that even the tax reform itself, that is the spirit or the principle behind it. And so for me, like I said, at this point in time, I want to believe that this was expected. That is one, and that the government already has their parameters in place. But fundamentally is the fact that this government has, right from the onset, have always said that, look, it is time for us to re-engineer our orientation as far as business with the international community is concerned, or how we even go about generating revenue within the economy. So for me, it's good that this is happening now at a point of reform. And if really before now, this is not something the government has factored into, then fine. The good thing is, what's it called? The tax reform bill in itself, it's still being debated even at the National Assembly level. So if really there are peculiarities that needs to be captured, then this is a good opportunity. And I'm happy that Taiwo is already the one taking note of that. So it means that his team is also abreast of the issues, and probably in a way, I want to believe that as part of their manuscript, they should have some sort of strategies on how to cope that.
Now, on the side note, I want to go back to what you said, Joseph. You talked about BRICS. There seems to be concerns that Nigeria being a partner could signify her being a target of the United States under Trump. What's your own thoughts about this?
It's simple. One, I think, is for us to agree and have that consensus that number one, Nigeria is not a traditionally ally nation. So with what that means is that it has the leverage and opportunity to partner with every country, either at a bilateral or multilateral level. Now that has to be established. And if that is established, then beyond that is also for us to ask ourselves. And fundamentally, when you look at it, I would say for me, number one probably is to say BRIC in the first place offers Nigeria the opportunity of trading or dealing with seemingly her peers. And when I say her peers now is when you look at it in terms of they are developing nations. So experientially, they have a lot to contribute to Nigeria, at least as to how they were able to evolve and become superpowers or they get to the level where they are. But then if you look at it, for me, fundamentally, when it comes to US response and looking at it fundamentally from the direction Trump has always had, one is the fact that we know fundamentally he is transactionally minded. And so, which means that what he will be looking at mainly would be trade-offs. Right? So it's not going to be more or less like the benevolent US that we used to know. No. So one thing is sure, most likely the investment flow and the dealings will be more with the private sector. And I want to believe that whatever response that the US would have would fundamentally be from the business angle. And probably rather than even focusing on Nigeria would be how would they right now, because it's a two dimension for them, one being the Russian and the Chinese interest in will I say in Africa and by extension Nigeria. So I believe that whatever response they would have would be not necessarily targeted at Nigeria, but trying to see how would they reduce the influence of these two countries, like I mentioned, within the African continent and by extension Nigeria. But as to whether if there will be a specific targeted response towards Nigeria, I doubt that, because except if maybe it is a negotiation or business posture. But you can see, like I mentioned earlier, fundamentally that right from the campaign period up to now, there has not been mention of any African country. Even a clear case in point will be for the fact that, come on, manner, presidential inauguration, no African president was invited. That is even enough beyond any executive order that he has signed. That's to tell you that look, it's people are already joking around to say, oh, our biggest export is the religion. No wonder the likes of Kumuyi and Nathaniel Bassi were invited. But then that already is telling you indicators pointing to you as to how a Trump presidency regards Nigeria and by extension Africa.
Now, if you look at what Trump has done, rather, in terms of that executive order pulling out from the UN World Health Organization due to the failure of these organizations to account for COVID-19, how they handled it, and also sharing formula of finance contribution to the UN. I mean, that's quite, another topic on its own. But how do you think it could affect social development goals all across Africa? Now, is Trump not right to do this, given the concerns that he's raised about these global institutions?
So for me personally, I think his withdrawal, I see it as a strong arm tactic, in the sense that, because fundamentally we know in policy, withdrawal takes up to a year. So which means that this is just an indication saying, oh, look, this is the direction I would want to go. But I want to believe that most likely it's this is just a call for him saying, look, even if we are to go forward, we would need a higher level of accountability. We would need more value than what we are getting, because from reviews that I've had, the perception is that US is not getting as much as is expected from that's the World Health Organization. Yes, we know that there were a whole lot of stories, rumors, and all around the involvement of WHO, and particularly with China, in the handling of the COVID-19 crisis. But then there are also those that also believe that even he himself as US president then was culpable. But then fundamentally for me, it's I see it as a strong arm tactic. I feel some sort of negotiations would happen and some sort of compromise. Number one is we need to understand that just like the UN, United States is also one of the founding members of the World Health Organization, and withdrawal of US, even for instance, has its own implications. In as much as, yes, we know that withdrawal of US means depletion in terms of funding, but so also when you look at it in terms of geopolitics, for instance, one thing is sure, with the withdrawal of US would only provide a vacuum. So definitely, a superpower would have to fill it. And if, for instance, that opportunity is taken by China, that is you giving China, why would I say, more relevance or opportunity to be more relevant in the international space. And so when you look at it and you ask yourself, is that the right direction even for a superpower like the US? That is one. Then beyond that is also the fact that the other side of it is also, we know that in terms of, when you look at it even fundamentally, we know the World Health Organization for the past 5 to 10 years have invested so much more in terms of emergency preparedness and vaccination. And then you ask yourself, who are the major funders of this? And when you look at it, One, off the top of my head is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Where are they? They are the US. And then there are so many also private entities that when you look at it also, you will trace their origin back to the US. So in a way, he pulls out, he doesn't pull out. The US still remains a major player in the World Health Organization, whether be it through the government or be it through the private sector. So we will surely see. And for me, I think these are the dynamics we'll be looking at and to see. And then in terms of its impact in Africa, it cannot be overemphasized. But for me, I see it as a rallying call that this is time for us to start looking within. We thought that COVID-19 was a wake-up call for Africa to start building its own independent and autonomous system, because they were that whole when countries in terms of COVID-19 response were nationalist in their approach. Most African leaders, it was expected, would have learned from that, and at least by this time, 4 or 5 years down the line, there should have been some sort of measures at least to curb that. But then for me, as a development practitioner, yes, I know that the immediate consequences will be dire, but then in the long term, critically, when we look at it, it's actually a good thing for Africa, because what it means is we are forced now to start looking inwardly and then stop that whole over-reliance, be it on aid or on the whole global governance frameworks in terms of making things work, or in terms of even our systems responding to issues that are indigenous to Africa.
Now, let's examine the Nigeria-US relations under President Tinubu. As you're aware, the envoys for Nigeria, 2 nations, since he came into power, has not, they've not even been selected, the list has not been provided. And these embassies, in particular the US embassy, doesn't have an envoy. Is this concerning for you?
For me, I see the 2 of them as 2 businessmen. There are those that were, will I say, excited about the Trump presidency, because there is a whole feeling that, it will help put check in terms of probably some of the practices or antecedents of the Nigerian administration. But the truth is, when you look at it, even in terms of human rights records, when you look at the Trump's administration in his first term, you ask yourself, how good are they in terms of human rights? That I leave it is a subject to public debates. But then if you look at it, most especially in terms of some of the issues that came out from the Middle East, particularly with the UAE and all, you come to see that this is a man that is fully focused on more of what is beneficial for the United States. And you can see it's clear, even from the from his statements, it's America first. And so that is what I see that would most likely be the direction of whatever engagements that would happen. So it's not go. It's most of it. Yes, we know. If you look at it in terms of Nigeria's engagement, putting on the gaba of the whole big brother or giant of Africa, we have always had, even in terms of our foreign policy, it has always been multilateral. But then as far as Nigeria and the US is concerned, with these 2 presidents, I see more of bilateral relationships. And so I see more, even in terms of the economic outlook, the investments to be concentrated more around areas or sectors that are beneficial more to to both countries. But then for me, it's this is an opportunity for us to renegotiate, because the dynamics are changing, whether geopolitically and economically, and whether we want to be part of the new next dispensation, I believe, is dependent on whatever disposition or position we take.
I don't want us to drag too much on the conversation, but if there is one key question I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on, is how Nigeria and other African countries can position themselves to not be downplayed by a Trump second term.
I think for starters, one is, what are we bringing to the table? That is fundamentally one question we need to ask ourselves. For long, we have always been clamoring for the fact that most of our items of trade have been more around, how would I put it, factor inputs or raw materials, and not really around the services. And beyond that, also, it's our items that have no added value. So for me, like I said, number one is we need to start looking inward, because First of all, what is the volume of the intra-Africa trade? Because right now, what Trump is even telling you is, you are not on my agenda. You are not on my table. For you to get to the table, for you to be part of the agenda, there must be something tangible. And as far as the United States is concerned, it is not seeing anything like that. And so we must demonstrate that level of relevance or significance. It's not enough to say, with a Trump administration, it won't be enough to say, oh, I play a strategic role in the Sahel for peace and security. Oh, for how would I put it, for US presence in Africa or its engagement in the United Nations, you would need me as an ally, blah, blah, blah. This president has come to tell you, look, I'm not interested in World Health Organization. I'm not interested in the Paris Agreement. I'm not interested in most of your bilateral engagements. I'm fundamentally interested in countries that would add value to the United States. And so what are we going to contribute? What do we bring to the negotiation table? And for me, that is one. And we have so much played lip service, really. When we look at it, we have so much played lip service for long. Particularly when you look at it, even in the whole African Free Trade Continental Agreement, visa traveling within African countries is even a nightmare. Whether you want to look at it in terms of logistics or in terms of even the protocols and the legal framework. And so for me, this is time for us to start investing more in the Africa relationship and really less of the Africa-US or Africa-West relationship already, because today is a Trump, tomorrow we don't know who it is. Today is the United States, tomorrow you don't know which of the countries or continents is going to take this direction. Should we continue going cap in arms begging for us to be reconsidered, or should we start making ourselves relevant? For me, that is the question I'll be putting on the table. Mana.
Well, once again, Joseph Moro, thank you so much for being with us on the show. I wish we had more time, but we've got to go. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And dear viewers at home, that's the much we can take today on the show. Many thanks for watching. God bless Nigeria and God bless the whole world. Once again, my name is Morno Balagobo. Bye for now.